Horror as a genre has to be inconsistent in its evolution throughout time because it always relies on being unpredictable. This is unique to horror because with action or adventure, characters fighting or going on adventures never really gets old, while every few years a specific thing horror media does, like jump scares, begin becoming the norm, and when something is normal, it can't unsettle you. A genre of horror in niche internet circles has always been prevalent though, even if its execution has evolved throughout time, that being the cute to scary approach with differing levels of success. House of Puso, being only 5 months old, is one of the newest additions to creators that try their hand at this form of scaring or disturbing their audiences, and while I believe it gets a lot of things right in order to be intriguing and that it has a lot of potential, I don't believe it's actually disturbing or scary in the slightest due to it mixing and mashing different elements of horror genres ineffectively. But since this is new in an upcoming series, what is House of Puso? House of Puso, created by Gigglegunks, is a new web horror series that lulls the viewer into thinking it's wholesome, like Happy Tree Friends or Pretty Blood, before showing its true colors, making it clear that it's actually a series about trauma and why children self-harm. There's so many praises I want to give this show since it does a lot right, first one being its presentation and writing. Presentationally, this cartoon is amazing when it comes to trying to feel like an early internet or Newgrounds series made by a kid. There are many errors animation wise with coloration or certain keyframes, the frame rate is low, the characters look like they're made in MS Paint, there's no real detail given to backgrounds, and even things like the 3D feel of background objects such as clouds or snow due to the airbrushing, and the super choppily blurred in-betweens for fast actions screams early 2000s. The 4:3 aspect ratio is perfect. The same kid voice acting both characters poorly, inconsistently in certain moments, with a bad microphone, and with the fan in the background, and sounds that abruptly cut when the voice work is done.
Are you gonna show me around? Oh, of course. Just follow me.
The extremely simple MIDI music, and the play button used in Newgrounds animations before each episode starts all come together to perfectly emulate cartoons of the past when tech for animation and music was infinitely worse. What makes this all better is the writing during the unserious sequences of the show. In Winter with Puso and Bayani in the Cleaner episode, it takes a lot of time to just be silly and fun in order to correctly build up an atmosphere of, hey, this cartoon is fun and nice before anything bad happens. The characters will be just playing and putting carrots inside of snowmen, or Bayani and Puso will be under a mistletoe and Bayani will just eat the mistletoe randomly, or they'll be talking about the time casually, or they'll be making completely normal, natural jokes, like the Cleaner episode with Puso saying that the floor is just his bed because the animator decided not to make a background. Unlike quite a few of these shows that I've seen, like Happy Tree Friends, which doesn't really try that hard to sell its cuddly atmosphere outside of the art style, or Terrible Mouse, which for the most part just keeps the exact same atmosphere and tone throughout the whole show no matter what, despite it trying to be a wholesome horror show in its start. This show actually decides to take its time to feel truly like an early internet show made by a kid because of its amazingly executed presentation and writing, which both effectively mimic the kind of cartoon it wants you to think it is. Symbolism conceptually, and psychological elements. On a concept level, the show does what it wants to well, as it's abstractly trying to discuss topics like trauma and how that mental state can cause people to self-harm, and the difference it makes between its abstract or symbolic approach when it comes to depicting the effects of trauma and its very direct showcase of self-harm actually happening is great. In Cleaner, Puso attempting to clean, hide, and make the holes stop bleeding are all useless since Bayani ends up noticing it, which is when he shows Puso how he deals with the holes in his walls by hurting himself. It's clear that the holes thing isn't literal, as it makes more sense to interpret them as the exterior manifestations of Puso's traumatic event of him being assaulted as we see in Mess Room. And his attempts to hide these holes that begin bleeding don't work on Bayani, since he went through severe parental abuse. It's what made it easy for him to see that Puso was going through something even though he tried to hide it, and it's why he shares his method of escaping that mental pain by covering up the holes with something louder, which manifests as the extremely grounding feeling of cutting pain. And it's also why Bayani's face appears over the holes as a band-aid, since this is his method of escape. In Mess Room, Puso messes with the holes and it causes him to have a psychological break, which symbolizes that interacting with these dark thoughts and not taking his issues seriously, which is shown through him laughing and playing with the blood from the walls, can all accumulate into a person breaking down and having a mental episode where they directly relive what they went through. And for Puso, his only escape was what Bayani showed him, which is how all the holes get covered up again with Bayani's face. And in his episode, we learned that his parents gave him away to an abusive parental guardian, which put him in a situation where he'd be punished unjustly either verbally or physically, no matter if he did something right or wrong. That created this monster version of Bayani, or his dark thoughts, and that's why a separate Bayani, or a happy, uncorrupted version of him, comes in and is terrorized by the monster version of him, since his dark thoughts are what makes Bayani resort to hurting himself in order to ground himself and escape them like Puso. These are all strong concepts and they're conveyed in a way that requires a little bit of thought, but not ARG levels. So it's fair to say that this is a psychological horror since it deals with psychology, disturbing visual shifts, and because it's inherently distressing to imagine children having to go through these things. But if this is all good, then why'd I preface this with conceptually in the title of this section? It's because none of these things actually make the show scary or disturbing since it sells by being derivative and over the top. This is my main issue with House of Puso, and why I only find it interesting as opposed to disturbing. It's clearly attempting to be a cute cartoon on the surface, and a deep symbolism heavy psychological horror deep down. I've established that. But it does tons of things in order to disturb you for no reason outside of just trying to disturb you. Why does it use weird realistic blurry eyes to convey the holes in Puso's walls? Why were there teeth in Bayani's wound when he cuts himself? And why does it flash eyes and other weird realistic images in the background? Why in Messroom does it use random PNG cutouts of cockroaches and hands? Why does it use various deformed faces in Bayani's trauma episode, and what's up with the random use of Filipino? Horror that likes to use different languages or ciphers to be disturbing are usually ARGs like Ben Drown, since the entire point of an ARG is for you to pause, go outside of its confines and decipher what's going on yourself, with you slowly understanding what's happening being the horror, game, or point of the story itself. Random uses of Filipino in a series that's mostly English, not an ARG, and consistently more effective when it just uses its main language makes no sense. When the evil Dark Bayani asks him, "Why are you happy?" it's disturbing because that sentence is creepy and aggressive. Instead of shut down his happiness, and it directly, immediately pushes the point of what it's trying to do in a way that does not need to be subtle, cryptic, or indirect. If he just spoke on Bayani's bad feelings about failing his parents' legacy in English, then we similarly would have immediately gotten it. Unless you read Filipino, us having to pause and translate what's said for extra details takes us out of the experience, which puts us in a more analytical mode, and that's counterproductive when you want us to be scared. The only other reason I can guess Filipino in this, as far as I can tell, nonsense language is used is because us seeing another language is supposed to be scary, due to this being a trope in things like creepypastas. If that's the case, it doesn't work because it's overdone and other languages aren't scary by themselves for no reason. The random realistic imagery also feels weird, and it's a tactic common in analog horror. Something like Mandela Catalog is able to be disturbing with realistic deformed eyes and faces because it's set in the real world, and people who copy your appearance or are deformed in impossible ways is part of that specific horror series brand of horror, since the enemy of humanity in Mandela Catalog are the alternates. That's the entire point. Outside of it's scary because it's realistic and red and different from the normal art style, House of Puso has no reason to go into this kind of Trevor Henderson smile door-esque direction. Bayani's cut having teeth in it doesn't make it more creepy, neither does a screaming hand with eyes coming out of the ground when he gives it blood. It just comes across as a random attempt to bluntly say that this is different from what you saw, be scared. And it makes even less sense for the story since it was able to be creepy without doing this stuff. In the winter episode, it didn't use realistic blurry eyes bleeding, it instead stayed with the art style's limitations and was able to be creepy by the music cutting out and then walking into the bloody snow, which is a far more unique move since you're just stuck with how the cartoon usually looks, which feels more uncanny since we're firmly still in the aesthetic, and so the feeling of wow, that shouldn't happen is amplified because what's being depicted has changed, but visually it's the same. Similar to how Happy Tree Friends doesn't get super realistic or anything with its gore. That show's effective at being shocking on a first watch because it keeps the art style the exact same. The show doesn't even have to have the exact same level of art quality either. Messroom shows Puso tweaking and having a bit more detail added to his fur, eyes, and mouth, and that works because it made sense given the fact that he's losing his mind. It did not need to have real PNG hands or roaches for reasons I've explained earlier. If Bayani cut himself and it was an actual wound that's drawn to be a bit more detailed than usual, like Puso tweaking, then it wouldn't feel over the top. It'd feel in place and properly violent given what the show is. Same as the background images of Puso's mental break being like random weird real life images that are just red. And same especially with the Bayani trauma backstory episode, where because of the over the top imagery, it ended up feeling like some kind of creepypasta walking simulator game from 2014. I believe that it was creepy until the aftermath of the second mistake, which again, feels silly. Look at this. Come on. It's literally like that FNAF World. You know the FNAF World minigame where that Scott Cawthon put in there where it's like the Foxy walking simulator is like Foxy.exe? That's literally what this is. On top of that, by staying in the bounds of what the cartoon looks like, it could have even read as a cry for help from the child making this cartoon, because they'd be basically trying to depict what they went through and how they feel to the best of their abilities if it wanted to go into that narrative direction. There's so much that could have been done if the style just stayed the same. Metaphorical confusion. The eyes in the wall Puso interacting with it and Bayani's fix of the problem, among other things like the evil Bayani and Puso interacting with the hole too much, are all clear metaphors and symbolism that I've broken down already. But as to what extent it goes to in certain episodes is unclear. Does Puso have a fixation on cleaning his house because his house symbolizes his mind and his continued failed attempts at trying to remove the holes or get over the trauma he suffered by himself? And when Bayani came in, that was supposed to be Puso opening up? Or is this just Puso's house and the holes simply symbolize what I said that they did before? Is Puso addressing the audience at the start of Cleaner and Mess Room supposed to mean something greater than establishing the atmosphere of this feeling like an early internet cartoon? Is a Filipino use, especially in Bayani's episode, meant to say something about his Filipino origins and family, a family which he feels he failed the legacy of? Or is it just Filipino because other languages are scary, I guess? When Puso and Bayani talk about the time, since Puso accidentally misremembered what time it was, does that mean something? And finally, when Puso has a hard time pushing the drawer off of the eyes and Bayani does it effortlessly, is that meant to mean something too? This is a unique issue since to me it feels like I'm both overthinking things outside of the obvious metaphors, but I also feel like there must be some more meaning, even though whether or not that's actually true is totally unclear. I think this could just be me, but definitely say if you feel similarly in the comments. Conclusion. I think House of Puso is a good web series and I'm going to be keeping up with it, just like how I have been with Terrible Mouse since I think it has a lot of potential. It could be creepy and disturbing, and not just interesting if it decided to be less over the top with its visuals, which is its main issue. But leave in the comments what you think about House of Puso. Subscribe and you can become a member for $1 to gain access to simple, non-scripted extra videos where I give immediate thoughts on things I've watched and talk about channel plans. These are the current supporters of the channel. Thank you everybody. Hey guys, so there's this thing called like House of Puso, right? And I just saw like half a clip of a reactor looking at this, and I was like, holy crap, this seems pretty big and interesting. This reminds me of Terrible Mouse for some reason. This gives me Terrible Mouse vibes for some reason, and I think it's really new too. I don't think it's an older series. I think a lot of this stuff is pretty new and fresh. So yeah, you know, I'd love to talk about this new weird internet series. What the hell? Okay. They got the early 2000s vibe down perfect. Music is very good. It's just funny, I like it. Oh, okay. Okay. Alright, dude. Okay, I did not expect that shit. Okay, dude. No, don't do it, man. Okay, that was really effective. That was really, really effective. They're a good animator, too. Look at this. Okay, that little winter thing was pretty good. That was actually pretty good. I like that. Please let me positively analyze this. Please, I want to give a positive analysis really bad. What the why is he what the heck? Why is he cleaning eyes?
Hey, my name is Puso.
Why is it eyes in the floor?
Disgusting, dirty gross, ew, dirty holes. Puso.
I actually kind of like this so far. It's like a kind of comedy sort of thing, and it's also like hinting at being really creepy. And it's like the comedy is not like, you know how old shows are, it's like emulating that. No, it's like it feels like it's actually trying to be funny, and it like actually is funny. Like, this is good, dude. I like this. This is actually good so far. It has weird stuff like the eye thing. Like, that's creepy. Like, what the heck?
It already said 9 a.m. That's earlier. What? That's earlier. Did you want me to come earlier? Oh, no. I just got my time wrong. Sorry.
The kid that made this is actually really good, dude. Like, this is actually some good stuff.
Why not? Floors are nice. You should be kinder to your floor.
Oh my gosh. What the fuck? Bro, what the fuck? What the fuck? Why that song? What the hell is that? That is not any language. Dude, don't do it. Do not cut yourself. What was that shadow version of him? What the heck? That was total. All of the errors in this video are obviously intentional for the aesthetic. The aesthetic's really good. They did really good capturing it. And the child voice actor, I don't know if a child made this or if that's like their little brother or something, but this is well done. Okay, yeah, I think a kid made this. So I think it's like, how do I feel about it? I think it's sort of funny. It's kind of eerie with the eye. The eye thing, that's not very creepy in my personal opinion. It's just like the eyes are just kind of there. They're not really that important. And then it's like, well, do you want them gone? You have to cover them up with something louder, and he cuts himself, which is like, that sequence was pretty well done. Like, you know what that reminds me of? This is such a niche reference, but if I can get this on screen, I'll get it on screen. In like episode 3 of Captain Harlock from 1978, there's a scene where Daiba's dad dies, and it's like he's dying, he gets shot, and he like, dude, the whole build up to that was, oh my gosh, horrifying. Its death scenes are just like that cutting scene, where it's like super slow, it's like a lot of flashing colors, it's very disturbing, it'll mess you up. It feels like you're like experiencing someone's trauma in their mind. That's what it feels like. And that's kind of what that one felt like. But I think this would have been better, honestly, without the like realistic eyes that bleed or whatever, whenever he hits them, and they just start bleeding for some reason, and they're just like realistic eyes. Because honestly, this isn't that creepy. I don't think this juxtaposition to what it looks like and what's happening is that creepy, as Puso is trying to, he's like, these are holes, but these are eyeballs that are bleeding and stuff, and they're not treating them like they're eyeballs, like it's something horrifying. They're treating it like it's something kind of normal. And I'm not saying that they should treat it like it's something normal or anything for it to be effective, but what I am saying is that these blurred eyes are not creepy by themselves, and I don't know if that's 100% the intent, but that's what I feel like it's trying to do. It's trying to creep you out with the eyes, even though I don't think that works. Personally, I like the winter animation, winter with Puso and Bayani. I really thought that was good, and I want to explain why that was good. It's because the majority of the entire episode is just them basically chilling out during winter, and then they just find bloody snow, and Bayani doesn't take it seriously and he eats it, and Puso's the one that takes it seriously and is creeped out. So it's like, what's up with Bayani? Like, what? Like, and also the music cutting out there was just perfect. That was very well done. Oh my gosh, that was very, very well done. That was very good. But even then, I think that moment could have been even stronger if it just ended there, or even if the characters were scared, because it feels like it's not taking it like serious. Like, it feels like there's something wrong happening here, but they're not taking it seriously. So I don't know, as at least for me as an audience, I'd imagine that if the characters are not like creeped out at least a little bit, or Bayani himself is not very creepy, which he's not, then the creep factor, I think, is supposed to come from the realistic eyes and the mystery of like, why are there eyes in this ground, and why does Bayani know how to solve it, which is by cutting him for himself. Like, again, the build up to this scene is really good. This is really disturbing. But here's my issue with it. I think the imagery of the eyes and the hand coming out of the eye and all that is just a little bit, like, this imagery right here is a bit over the top, and that's my main issue with it. The build up to this moment was really good. When he cut himself, I was like, oh my gosh. But then there being teeth inside of his wound, and then like the eyes, and then like all these weird imagery with the eyes and stuff, I don't find this creepy. I just imagine or think of like analog horror. Either with the hand with all the eyes on it, this feels a little bit overdone. It feels like I've seen this before. Like, you know that image of the teeth door? Like, that's the kind of vibe I'm getting from this, like cartoon cat type shit. I've seen that kind of horror so much that it's not that scary to me, that just seeing realistic eyes in the floor or where they shouldn't be bleeding or something like this in this way, it's not that disturbing. This genuinely does actually feel like some old cartoon on the internet that like neither of us have heard of before. They got that vibe down perfectly by just making it natural, by having actual jokes. So that was really well done. But I don't think the actual like part that's supposed to be horrifying is very well done, in my personal opinion. That's how I feel about this episode. I think Winter did it better, and I'm excited to see what more House of Puso has. This is a good start. I say that critique because it's a critique. Like, I actually like it. Like, I think it's actually good. Just like Annie and Lele, like, I think Annie and Lele is actually good, but I had like actual critiques of the game, and these are just my live critiques. And I think that this raw watching of House of Puso is not going to be as funny or like humor focused or anything like that. I don't think it's gonna be like that because this is not bad. Like, this is actually cool. This is actually good. I like this. Like, I think this has something going for it. Like I actually really want to see what the next like few episodes are gonna be. This kid is definitely gonna be talented, bro. This kid is talented. What the hell? Oh yeah. What the hell? He's not gonna worry about it? Okay, I guess. Dude, why do you keep doing that? Dude, you better get your finger bit or something. Dude, what the heck? Biani did that many times? Oh my gosh, at 4 a.m.? Dude, you just destroyed one. What the heck? What did that just say? Dad? This might be Berserk's Murder, you know, murder music? That was really good. He's definitely, obviously, Metaphorical Confusion to himself. This part disturbs me more than all that other weird shit that we just saw. Okay, so it's like an eye demon that makes you, like, cut yourself? Is this like a metaphor for, like, depression or something? Is he, like, or, like, why you self-harm? It's like, because the pain of the self-harm is louder and stronger than that of what's happening inside of your head. It's like a release and escape. Is it a metaphor for messing with like dark I'm not sure, but I don't know if that actually worked. Like, it's a metaphor for like dark feelings inside of you. Because what I'm trying to understand this is that, like, metaphorically, right? Biani, when he comes in to cut himself, you know, it works because it's louder than than this thing, right? And then he introduces that idea and leaves his knife with him on accident. So now that he's introduced that idea, he can enact it and start doing it. And then I guess this episode is like us seeing like what happens with Puso. But me personally, like, I didn't find it that like the more part that I found disturbing was when Puso suddenly just decided to tweak out and start spreading the eye hole blood like everywhere, and then he couldn't clean it, and then he got like transported to this weird world of like, and I personally don't find it scary because I swear I've seen this a ton of times before, like analog horror type series. This is like very analog horror-y. Like I know that I've seen this before. And the horror of like this one is the self-harm, is that self-harming yourself is like the way to stop this evil demonic force. I think that's what the horror is trying to be. But how it's conveyed is done in like a very overdone sort of way. Like, and like suddenly, and it also is like, it feels like it's for no reason. Like, why the eyes? Why eyes? What's the point of that? When I think of things that are horrifying, like horrifying sequences like this in media, I think of something like Berserk's Eclipse. You know, and the big reason as to why the eclipse is so creepy is because we knew enough to be disturbed by what was going on. If Berserk was just like they were fighting and then suddenly Griffith's Baylet starts screaming and then it's the eclipse, it wouldn't be half as scary. But it's because we both know the characters and also we know enough as to what's going on, because these guys have had plot armor the whole time. For them to just suddenly be killed like this in front of Guts because Griffith is like, yeah, I'm actually gonna kill you guys now. Generally, I still like this, but I'm kind of like teetering off of thinking it's like great. And like, again, the background of the red and all these random objects and the roaches going, it's not that it's just not that because I've seen it before. I've seen this juxtaposition in horror before, in analog horror stuff. I've seen this in other kinds of stuff too. You know, horror is an ever-changing genre. What people found scary in 1935, people will not find scary now. The original Frankenstein movie that's in black and white was a terrifying film for those people back then. Well, now it's not much, because times have changed, things have gotten more extreme. What we find scary as human beings has evolved since the 1930s. And it has evolved since even the early 2010s. This feels like it came out like 5+ years ago when the analog horror stuff was super big. even though it wants to feel like a weird juxtaposition because it's like, oh, early 2000s style, kid voice acting, you know, all this stuff, but it also wants to do what was effective like 5 years ago, and I don't think you can do that. I don't think it works. Like, there's no part of this that made my skin crawl or anything. It just feels kind of random. To me, I guess it kind of symbolizes like a panic attack, right? See, this is why I like House of Puso. It's like actually interesting to think about and talk about, but like, it's just the way that it's implemented is not effective to me.
I bet you can't land the bottle flip with that water bottle right there. Okay, Ben, let me try. Oh, wow, I missed. All right, my turn. I bet you can't land the bottle flip with that water bottle right there. Okay, Ben, let me try. Oh, wow, I missed. All right, my turn. I bet you can't kiss a guy right now.
No!
I bet you can't kiss a guy right now.
Okay, that's kind of funny.
Preferably one in the same room as you. And you have to pretend that you like it. Okay, Ben, let me try. I bet you can't land the bottle
It's
flip
really
with that water
funny.
bottle right there.
Nah, bro. Is there something you want to tell me? Where's this audio from, bro?
Is there something you want to tell me? No. Is there something you want to tell me? No. That's really funny. Oh man, I like that. That's really, really funny. Yeah, let me subscribe to this dude, bro. Man, this is one of those series I want to make a review for and just keeps tabs on. Like, I'm so interested in this. By any walk past it. You're lucky I'm so forgiving. See, this is what I'm talking about, the random imagery not being scary. It's like, ooh, look at this image of a deformed person. Isn't that scary? And the sky's red. You know, stuff like this needs a context in order to be creepy in. If you just use it as a juxtaposition purely because it's just like a juxtaposition, it's not creepy. Whoa, 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 whoa. Holy shit, he beat the fuck out of him. Yeah, this is some weird metaphor for abusive parents or something. I think it would have been creepier if it, like, kept its regular aesthetic. Like, if the wizard guy just stayed the exact same the whole time, it would have been creepier, I think. I think that it's a metaphor for, like, abusive parenting. It's like, no matter what you do, there's no right move. There's nothing right you can actually do, and so you'll be hit. And so potentially the source of Bayani's eyes within his house is his abusive parents. And Puso's source could, again, I think this is pretty good. Like, if you analyze it, but it's not clear. And I don't think that not being clear is necessarily bad or anything. But when something's not very clear with horror, like me having to screenshot this stuff and probably go translate it, or maybe the whole point of it is like what he's saying is not important because he's an abusive parent. No matter what Bayani does, it'll never be good enough for him. So I like this episode. I think this is the best one so far. Though I still don't find the hyper realistic like images and art or the realistic images and stuff scary. I don't find that scary. I don't think it's disturbing because I've seen it before, and it kind of feels purposeless. If everything just stayed in its art style, like if this guy just stayed the same throughout the video instead of this over the top like Sonic.exe like creepypasta shit in the background, or like these random mutilated face, or like all this random stuff that has nothing to do with the actual video, or if he just stayed the same with maybe just a black background, for example, that could have been way more effective because that's just how the show looks. Like, it's able to be disturbing because of what's going on and not because of how it looks. This is over the top. It doesn't need to have these weird eyes. It doesn't need to have the Mandela catalog eyes or like the door teeth thing. It doesn't need that. That kind of horror has been overdone.